Hever Castle in Kent is the ancestral home of the Boleyn family, the most famous of whom was Queen Anne Boleyn, Henry VIII's second Queen Consort. We will look at the castle's treasures, its gardens, and what happened after the demise of the Boleyns. It takes 60 minutes to travel from London to Edenbridge. As there isn't any public transport available from the train station, visitors will have to take a taxi to travel the remaining 3 miles to Hever Castle. The oldest part of the building dates back to 1270. It was built originally as a country house. By 1462, it was acquired by Geoffrey Boleyn, who converted it into a manor house. Geoffrey's grandson, Thomas Boleyn, inherited the castle in 1505, and together with his wife, Elizabeth Howard, brought up his 3 children there, George, Mary and Anne. Though born in Norfolk and not at Hever Castle, Anne spent her early childhood years at Hever. There is a debate between academics on the exact year of her birth. Some favour 1501 and others 1507. What is known for certain is that Anne's father Thomas was active in the court of Henry VII. And 3 years after the coronation of Henry VIII, he became an ambassador to the Low Countries in 1512. This brought Thomas and his family in close contact with Archduchess Margaret of Austria. His diplomatic rise continued with an ambassadorship to France between 1518 and 1521. After the family's return from France, Anne was given a position as lady-in-waiting to Catherine of Aragon in 1522. However, Anne was not the first Boleyn to be a lady-in-waiting. Her sister Mary had returned to England in 1519 and been appointed maid of honour to Catherine of Aragon, Henry VIII's first wife. On her return to England, Mary soon married William Carey, a wealthy courtier, in 1520. Henry VIII was a guest at the wedding. That didn't stop him, however, from beginning an affair with Mary. It's rumoured that one or both her children were fathered by the king. When Anne arrived at the English court in 1522, Henry and Catherine had been married for 13 years. Though it is well known that Henry and Catherine had a healthy daughter, Mary, in 1516, their son, Henry, Duke of Cornwall, born on January the 1st, 1511, had died just over a month later on the 22nd of February, 1511. Henry VIII was becoming increasingly disillusioned with his marriage, which he soon regarded as an affront to God. You see, Mary had been betrothed to Henry VIII's older brother Arthur. It was he who had been destined to be King of England. Arthur had died at the age of 15, and Mary married his younger brother. Henry VIII felt sure his marriage was cursed. At this stage, the fortunes of the Boleyns were about to rise again. We'll return to the Boleyns later. For now, we'll look at the Astors and the part they played at Hever Castle. William Waldorf Astor was born in New York City in March 1848. Due to a petty family squabble about the size of adjacent mansions, William Waldorf Astor, his wife and children, moved to England and initially settled in London. In 1903, he bought Hever Castle. At that time, the estate had fallen into disrepair. He restored the castle added a Tudor village, and also added the Italian garden, which is on display to this day. The castle is listed as a Grade 1 building. On the ground floor of the castle are exhibits from the Astor days. John Jacob Astor, William Waldorf's fourth child, inherited Hever Castle on his father's death in 1919. The castle remained in the Astor family for a further 6 decades until it was sold to John Guthrie in 1983. On display are some beautiful Tudor treasures. As well as late 19th and early 20th century furniture. Throughout the castle, there's a lovely juxtaposition between articles from the 16th century and those from later centuries. We are about to enter the Boleyn apartments.
He made sure that Henry VIII he wanted.
This narrow staircase leads to the nursery. Anne Boleyn had enjoyed a good education. The nursery later became a schoolroom. The Boleyn children studied, amongst other subjects, Latin and French.
The chip for it, so look this up in your book of readings. And when I got near the bookcase, there was a page sticking right out.
This is what the Great Chamber would have looked like. This room had many functions, as a dining hall, a place of entertainment, and a meeting room.
To us, Boleyn success at home and abroad came at the right moment to the
And they all say that, and there's one that goes along. It's probably the same number as just outside. And I was on duty in the cabinet. So you shot, yeah. It's just duty in the back. Out there, then we'll go back. But that's the thing. I swear I know we do believe in it. You know, it's something that comes with the job. I didn't tell her what it was. And some of the girls who work here get houses there containing but it just happens to anybody, you know, seeing.
This room is one of the castle's best bedchambers. Typically, there'd be tapestries on the walls, casement windows, a fireplace, a four-poster bed, and the good book. This area is known as the Staircase Gallery.
Because it's tiny, kitchen, there's a beautiful drawing room, storerooms,
I think the other reason maybe Astor's may have moved on was because in the late 70s, maybe, and certainly, you know, by the end of the Second World War, in the staff, people wanted to get.
Year and a half. Moved out of London in retirement, and thought.
There's a view from this mezzanine of the inner hall.
A couple of days a week we do guided tours. I've had to write that. Well, yeah, and also, they already be concerned. That's just a roommate. And next to it was a house. That belongs to.
This is the Henry Room. The best room in the house was where the king would have stayed should he visit. Once servants' dormitories, This room now contains Anne's treasures. As a new arrival to the court of Henry VIII, Anne was considered the ideal female courtier, graceful, with French clothes that were stylish. She spoke French fluently. She was intelligent and quick-witted. Despite these attributes, it wasn't until 1526 that Henry noticed Anne. By many accounts, she resisted the role of mistress. During this period, she would often leave court for the seclusion of Hever Castle. Following Henry's divorce, Anne married him in 1533. These two books are the most valuable items in the castle. These prayer books for the very wealthy were used in private devotion. The Long Gallery exhibits portraits of famous people of the Tudor era. Clement VII was the Pope at the time of the 1534 Reformation. The Reformation changed England from an entirely Catholic country to a mainly Protestant one, and the Act of Supremacy, also in 1534, made Henry the supreme head of the Church instead of the Pope. Those who did not swear allegiance suffered the ultimate price. Ironically, Anne and her brother George also perished because she was unable to give the king his much-cherished son. Not far from the Long Gallery is an example of one of the smaller bedrooms decorated by the Astor family. When I visited, there was an exhibition showing fine art throughout the centuries. This is the entrance to the council chamber, a meeting place for the lord of the castle where important business matters were discussed. Down this spiral staircase takes us back to the courtyard. After leaving the castle, I had to see Hever Castle's gardens. Hever is set in 125 acres. The gardens open at 10:30 a.m. The castle itself opens at 12. When I visited, the castle closed at 4:30, though due to Halloween and the Christmas season, there is now an extended closing time. Check the website for further details. After the much longed-for birth of the heir to the throne in October 1537, Henry VIII's third wife, Jane Seymour, died. Henry's former father-in-law, Thomas Boleyn, the diplomat, died in March 1539. He was buried at the estate's church, St. Peter's. Thomas Boleyn's properties came to the king, who married again in 1540 to Anne of Cleves. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately for Anne, she was not to the king's liking. He divorced her 6 months after the marriage. She was one of the survivors. After their annulment, Anne was gifted several properties, including Richmond Palace and Hever Castle. Throughout the centuries, the castle passed hands from the Waldegrave family after Anne's death to the Humphreys family and then on to the Meade-Waldo family until the Astors purchased it in the early 20th century. Today, the castle is used for music videos, films, and other events. And 5 centuries after its most famous resident last lived there, it still attracts tourists from all over the world. Parts of the castle have even been adapted to accommodate visitors overnight. Check out the website for prices to stay in either the Astor wing or the Anne Boleyn wing. Let's just take in and enjoy these beautiful gardens. Opposite this lawned area is a rockery above a series of tiny ponds.
Go! Now!
Behind the castle is a maze, but sadly I didn't have enough time to visit. It's 4:30 and the castle is about to close, so it's time to leave.